They seem to make such sense.
Recording in progress.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. This is City Council, Monday, August 7th, 2023. Thank you for adjusting the time and date of, or just the date of the meeting to accommodate the Bayfield County Fair. So with that, we would take a roll call, please.
Mayor McGrath? Mayor McGrath? Tracy Snyder?
Here.
Jen Mazias? Jen Mazias? Tom Limas?
Here.
Dave Anderson?
Here.
John Hopkins?
Here.
Jared Trimbo?
Here.
5 of 7 present, a quorum is met.
Thank you. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our next item is approval of minutes from the council meeting on July 10th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second. Motion by Tom, second by Tracy. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, approval of monthly expenditures.
I'll make that motion. If I can go, we can go ahead and do that. Only two of us signing everything.
Yeah, we're gonna do that, should be just fine. Tom, motion,
I'll second that.
second by Jared. Roll call vote, please.
Jared Trumbo,
Yes.
John Hopkins.
Yes.
Dave Anderson,
Yes.
Tom Nymus,
Yes.
Tracy Snyder,
Yes. Thank you, motion carries. Next item is public comment. Is anyone here from the public that would like to give public comment? If so, please come forward. Anyone online? Last chance. Okay, we'll move on. Next item is mayoral announcements, proclamations, and appointments. I have neither proclamations nor appointments today, just a few quick announcements. As I mentioned, the Bayfield County Fair is coming up this weekend, starting Thursday. As some of you may realize, the mayor job is a part-time job, and my full-time job is tourism director for Bayfield County. And so that really does take over my life during this next week. So again, thank you for adjusting the meeting for that. I hope to see many of you there. It's always a really great county fair, lots of fun. The county really cares for the fairgrounds, and it's a nice, clean, family-friendly fair. Kids 4 and under are free. It's a pay-one price admission. Veterans are only $5 on Friday. Seniors 62 and older are only $5 on Sunday. And that gets you into the fairgrounds. There's no parking charge. It includes the grandstand shows and all the other entertainment. The only thing you have to pay for is your food and any games that you play. So you can ride the Ferris wheel to your heart's content. And then I also, on that, having to do with my other job, is the Discover Wisconsin episode that was filmed on July 27th here in Washburn. It did include also Bayfield, Red Cliff, Cornucopia, and Herbster. We had great weather. The sign looked wonderful at the West End Park entrance to the walking trail. So thank you to Jeremy and your crew for getting that taken care of. It really looked nice. And I'm really excited about this episode highlighting not only the walking trail and coastal management's contribution to that, but also the cultural center. And I ended up being interviewed in the museum at the cultural center. And they did do some shooting in the art exhibit as well. So it should be out in the end of September, and I'll let everyone know when to look for that. My other brief announcement is I participated, back to my mayor job, in a green tier meeting that was held at the county courthouse, and that's for all the communities in the state that are green tier communities. Washburn is not a green tier community. However, they invited all of the area communities to come and talk about any projects that we have had going on that have to do with climate resiliency. And so Tony helped put together a list of the projects that we have been participating in lately that have to do with that topic, and I represented us at that panel discussion. Lots of good work going on up in our area. And they actually went to the Big Top the night before to see one of the house shows, Superior, and loved it. So again, it's always nice to hold meetings here. We can introduce other people to our area and they can see the great work that's being done up here. So thank you to Tony for that assistance. That's all I have for announcements. And next we'll move on to the next item, which is a public hearing and then discussion and action on resolution 23-014 to vacate the unopened 9th Street East from Washington Avenue to 3rd Avenue East. Irene Blakely, petitioner. Is there a motion to begin the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Tom, second by Jared to start the public hearing. Is anyone here for the public hearing on this item? Anyone online? Look like they want to give testimony at the public hearing.
No one online, you need to take a vote.
Uh,
Move in second.
Oh, whoops, sorry, we didn't vote.
yeah.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of starting the public hearing?
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're in the public hearing. Thank you. I'm a little tired. And if we're not seeing anyone here for the public hearing, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Tom, second by Jared. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next. Is there a motion for any action on the resolution? To vacate.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion by Jared, second by Tom. Discussion. Anyone have any questions, comments, or additional discussion? We've talked about this a little bit already here and also at Plan Commission. So it looks like no discussion, and with that, I will call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Here we go.
Thank you all.
Yes, you're very welcome. Thanks for your continued investment in the community.
I'm sure you'll be in touch about the disposition of the property.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thanks, Irene. Okay, our next item is discussion and action on request to purchase lot 49, tax ID 38430 on Fortier Road, Noah and Molly Sigler, petitioners. I don't know if are they online, do you know?
No, it's for sure.
Okay.
Might be Molly, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and Molly is here also.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to Washington.
Thank you. We're here if you have any questions.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so, look at, everyone, this is on tab 2 in your packet, and I have to remember, would the action at this point just be to go, to postpone this until closed session? If you want to do anything further, or?
You don't have to. I mean, if you wish to discuss it or counter offer anything, then you can go into closed session at the end of the meeting. Otherwise, if you are comfortable with the proposal as is, you could take action on it in open session. So it's your choice. But this would, so if you do want to go into closed session, though, this is your opportunity to ask any questions publicly of the Zieglers.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions, or would anyone care to make a motion?
Well, I just have a question about the rebate, incentive rebate. Is that pretty typical to include that in a contract?
We have done that a couple times in past land sales.
And I saw that you guys were emailing back and forth, and it looked like you had suggested those figures.
And then the nice thing there is the short time frame. Then, if that is going to affect, absolutely. Anyone else have questions? Seeing none. John?
A little bit of a question. I'm noticing this is 3.89 acres, and I have seen 3 acres, 3.5, so on the market for twice the amount being offered here, $36,000 for the property. One up by the golf course had, I guess, 70 something. So I'm just kind of wondering, this is a pretty good deal.
A lot of that is not buildable land. Is part of that reason, I believe. That's my recollection from discussing this when we put that land up for sale. Do you have any other comments or anything to add to that, Scott?
It is correct that there is a good portion of the property that it does have a pretty steep slope on it. That and combined with yes, real estate prices have been increasing rapidly. So this is part of your consideration. If you're satisfied with the offer as is, you can take action on it now. If you wish to discuss a counter offer, you can wait and go into closed session.
Any other thoughts, questions? Tom?
My only thought is, this is $1,000 less than what the appraisal was, but it's gonna be on the tax rolls. Which is going to be a plus.
Absolutely.
Me personally, I would just go ahead and do this. It's my feeling
Is that a
on it.
motion?
Make that a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion to accept the current offer on the table by Tom, second by Tracy. Any discussion? Comments or questions?
We have a formal agreement and not just emails.
I mean, I think it would become a formal agreement once it's approved. Is that correct?
We don't have there's no requirement that we have a signed realtor's offer. We've literally done that. So if you approve this action, we would prepare the required deeds and take care of the transaction.
And Scott, this is Max,
Go ahead.
if I may. Yes, so since this does contain incentives, the offer contains these developments.
Sorry, can you repeat that, Max? You're breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay. Since there are incentives and development timelines, we would draft a purchase agreement for this. But that doesn't need to be specified by council. That's just something that we would take care of.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Any other questions?
So we're approving this based on emails and what is listed.
In the memo. Correct, yep.
Yep.
Okay, if there are no other questions, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. So again, welcome to Washburn. Welcome back, Noah and Molly. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing what you do with that property. Scott will be in touch. Our next item is discussion.
Noah chatted, thanks everyone.
Okay, great. Discussion and action on clarifying the name of East Memorial Park Drive. Only in a small town. Yeah. Okay, so everyone has seen the different iterations of Memorial Park Drive, East Memorial Park Drive, East Memorial Drive, etc. Is there a motion on what we would like to have it officially be called for evermore?
Is there a West Memorial Park Drive?
There is not a West Memorial Park Drive, but we have discussed this issue. And we believe that keeping East Memorial Park Drive is easier for those who are unfamiliar with Washburn. And say we have EMTs or something who are looking, well, where is this exactly? If they know it's east, they know it is on that side of town. And that was the reason why we recommended keeping the east in there.
And Scott, this is Max also, if I may.
Go ahead, Matt.
It's like West Pine Street. There is no East Pine Street, but we still call it West Pine Street
Because it's on the west side.
for all
Or we might call
of Pine Street, yes.
Listed as, or is it Pine Street?
I think that's listed as West Main Street on the signs.
It's West Pine Street.
Plus we use West End Park, so East Memorial, I mean, it kind of, there's some directional.
I don't think it matters. Want to do East Memorial Park Drive, let's make it that.
Any other questions, comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to, name East Memorial Park Drive, East Memorial Park Drive.
Motion by Dave, second by Tom. Any other questions, comments, or discussion?
Just a question, so then are all these little signs gonna be corrected then, I assume?
I would think eventually, yes.
Jerry's nodding yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is discussion and action on creation of ad hoc committee for Bayfield Street beautification and reassignment of task from Plan Commission. This is tab 4 of your packet. Scott had a memo in there describing our thoughts on that. Plan Commission does continue to have tasks that need to be finished that had been put aside during the updating of the comprehensive plan. And this is a rather urgent issue as the highway construction is coming up quickly. So that was generally the thought on that. Does anyone care to make a motion on this so that we can have some discussion?
Mrs. Tracy, I'll make a motion to create an ad hoc committee for beautification.
I'll second that.
Motion by Tracy and second by Jared. Scott?
I do believe you should have a clarification of that on the number of members.
Did you have that in here? Susan? Oh, you did. That was-
You could say per the memo,
Okay.
or is that an option?
Well, I had recommended 5, but I mean, if there's a desire to have more, 7 or something like that, depending on
So
how many members you may want involved, or who would be available to do the work. That's your discretion. I just had thrown that out there.
Sure. So after some discussion, you could always amend your motion to be more specific, I would think. It'd be nice to kind of have that discussion first.
I think we should include business owners, not just interested citizens.
Sure. And we certainly could take recommendations on specific people, or if you have a specific way of, criteria for deciding which businesses, if we're talking about Bayfield Street businesses, or,
So let's back up and just, we want 5 people then?
well,
we could go
theoretically, yeah. So I'll just say, I did speak with our previous president, Miss Karen Spears Novacek, as someone that I think would be really great to not only be on the committee, but potentially lead that committee, because of her extensive experience with meetings and with beautification and with so many other things. We could certainly either get some recommendations from her, or we can come up with our own recommendations, either for criteria or specifically, whatever council is comfortable with. John?
I would like to suggest that we find out who's interested in serving on this committee, not make it too firm this evening. I think I may know a few people, at least one in particular, who may want to serve, but I never speak for that person.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we should just figure out how many council members we want, communication, run it down, get an actual number, see what we think there. So there is a watch for communication, and that's what you were recommending. Here's one of those.
is a person that's on the beautification committee already.
There's one or two council members, a chamber representative, a beautification committee representative, and an interested citizen.
And that's what was in the memo, yes, but this is open for discussion.
Sure.
So I know one interested party from the beautification committee.
I definitely think we need to include a business owner,
At least,
Two.
At least two.
two. And then two council people,
I would say one.
just one.
Yeah, and then the public.
I would also say that 3 of us council members have Main Street businesses, so that's kind of a double duty, could be double duty as well.
And of course, the meetings would be open to anyone who would like to attend, and I'm sure, and then this council will be voting on any proposals that are brought forward too, so. So 2 businesses so far, council, 1 from the beautification. Do we want someone from the Chamber of Commerce or the actual businesses themselves?
I think the chamber is probably might be more of a hindrance to this, so I would say something to the chamber.
John?
I would like to suggest that we include as many businesses as we possibly can. Or we're going to hear about the fact that we didn't, because I think there are some definite ideas and suggestions and maybe even contributions coming from the businesses themselves if we give them the opportunity.
I'm a little uncomfortable with excluding the chamber. You know, I think we need to have good communication with them, you know, it is part of, I think, inclusive of their, you know, mission, I believe is to.
Well, and they are on Main Street themselves.
Right, so I'm just saying, I think that good working relationship's important.
Just a follow-up to that, would you be suggesting, if you did want someone on the chamber, the director or someone from the board, or leave it up to them, or?
I think you just leave it up to them. Wouldn't have to be the director.
Okay, and then Jared and then John.
Yeah, leave it up to them to
Yeah.
nominate whoever. Yeah, because have they been part of organizing the meetings for some of these reconstruction? So they've already been fairly involved.
Yeah.
And they were
Very
very
much
good
so.
at, study
And so,
from Northland College.
So let me clarify, I had no intention of excluding the chamber. I think they should be included too. I totally agree. They have an awful lot of input also.
agree.
So we're up to 2+ businesses, council, beautification, and the chamber, so 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're at 5, and it could be additional businesses if we want to continue that discussion at all. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Well, we added a third business, and third was in on that, then we should have at least one citizen from the city on that.
Two businesses and then 1 citizen who's
Right.
not
Right.
necessarily a business.
Personally, I don't see that there would be a conflict of interest if any one of these 3 business owners were on that committee.
Sure. I don't know, so I'm gonna throw this at you.
Yep, I was listening.
So, if we had a council representative on the beautification ad hoc committee, and we said business owners and a citizen member, would it be a conflict if one of our council members filled one of those other roles?
No, but it wouldn't take up that number. So
So
the only concern with if a council member takes up one of those other roles is if there's a potential quorum of a council.
Sure. And I think we're gonna have to post these meetings anyway, as having a possible forum, I'm guessing, because just if people wanna come and participate.
So I'd say there's no problem with that, but there also wouldn't be a problem with prohibiting that citizen member from being a council member. You could have it as one citizen member who's not a council member.
Sure.
That was what I was.
That's, and so the business members could or may not be,
Yes, you could have them be council members or specifically not
sure.
council members. I think that our ordinance say that at least one council member on these ad hoc committees. But beyond that, we can limit the number of council members.
Okay, John?
So one point of order on council member plus a citizen. If that citizen were related by marriage to the council member, how would that work?
That is still a citizen, but any conflict of interest, financial conflict of interest, if there's something specifically relating to a business or a property owned by that family, that individual or the council member then would have to recuse himself from any decision that had to deal with directly with that. So a spouse is still just a citizen for purposes of membership.
Or a business owner?
Or business owner, yes. But the financial conflict of interest would carry over if that recommendation were something that's specifically related to that family's business.
Clear as mud?
Did that answer?
Yeah, clear as mud right now. We'll discuss more later.
Okay, Scott?
Two other items, and would just want to clarify that of any of these members, typically we have an ordinance that would say that any members of committees would need to be residents of Washburn. If you want to waive that for this committee, you may wish to discuss that. And then also, I believe you should verify the charge.
And the length of time. Potentially. Okay, any other comments, questions? Currently, we have a motion for 5 people to be on that committee. And as we spelled out who that might be, it turned into 7 potentially. 3 businesses, a council, beautification, a chamber, and a citizen. Would you like to amend your motion to include that new number and clarify the charge of the committee, which, or just say as spelled out in the memo?
Sure, you can do that. I'd like to amend the current motion to include 7 people as you listed, and with the charge and the, I don't know if the length of the committee was stated in the memo or not. I don't know if we need to do that, but per the memo. It just says in the future.
So I think maybe for this specific ad hoc committee, we would want some recommendation by a specific time. Is there a timeline by which we would need to make some decisions for budgeting purposes? Or this plan is going to include not only some desired improvements, but also a plan for how to pay for that. I think is part of the charge that we're expecting the ad hoc committee to come up with a plan or at least some ideas that we could decide on of how we would move forward with paying for it. So we're talking about construction beginning next spring, and then beautification could be part of that, but mostly it's going to be after that, I would think, in time for being able to purchase things for the holidays, ideally, so by next summer. Is that too late, do you think? By May? what are we in? August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April,
But I'm guessing this year,
8 months? Is that sufficient? Everyone feel that's a fine time?
Maybe a year and then you'd have some leeway time. I don't know.
I feel like it's getting too late, by then.
I think 8 months should be fine.
Keep a deadline.
Sure. And then, would we be looking at, after that period of time, when a decision is made, that committee would, be defunct then after that? Like their charge would be over after their mission is accomplished?
We got the second
Yeah, we have the
phase
second.
coming up too. Would they wanna, we wanna keep it around?
Or at least keep the structure the same as far as the types of members and.
I would keep the structure the same.
Yeah. John?
I could imagine that part of the process here, part of the decision would be things like flowers and trees and plants. He takes care of it, that would be maintained, so that would be a big question that I could see a follow-up of the committee.
Right, there would have to be some consultation, I think, with staff and questions. We don't want to make it another meeting that Jerry has to attend necessarily, but certainly his input would be appreciated, and I'm sure he would be consulted along with hopefully a lot of people, as this is being looked at.
I thought originally when we were gonna do this, it was going to be benches and decorative planters.
Well, that's what we're saying, we're putting this committee together to come up with all of those suggested ideas. Those are the types of things we're looking at, yes.
So the street's done already.
Right, hold on one sec, Scott and then Tracy, and then let's ask Karen if she has any input.
You can set 8 months, and if the committee needs additional time, you can request additional time. As far as differences between the two phases, I quite honestly, at this point, don't see that, because I would assume you're going to want uniformity. Everyone's going to have to understand that we are going to have an unfinished city for 3 years. And that's just the way it is. So, and this is something that the committee will have to delve into, as to whether or not all of these items would be purchased in advance, or some of these things may not go into effect until the second phase is complete. I cannot answer that right now. But they will have to discuss that and figure it out.
Just as a comment on the length of term, this page was missing from my ordinance book, so that's how I get my computer. For special ad hoc committees, the length of the term is in our ordinances till the end of their task, but in no event shall they extend beyond the mayoral term, unless at the reappointment or reelection of a mayor, council specifically extends it at that point.
I like that.
Yes.
Okay. So we're good until 2026.
So it would automatically expire at that time, unless we specifically extend it then.
Can we specifically include a chamber board member and not the director?
If, like, as the motion stands, it's let them decide, but Scott, you have a.
Let's let them decide until you decide. Otherwise, they have to be a Washburn resident.
Yes.
Oh, unless we make that, yeah, okay. So, keeping the Washburn residency requirement and, the 3 business, a council member, beautification committee member, someone from the chamber organization who is a resident, and, a citizen member, for an 8-month period unless requested. Can we shorten it, or does it have to go to the end of the term?
It can be shorter,
Okay.
it just cannot be longer.
So
I think would be more comfortable just going by what's in there, which is.
so asking for a recommendation, but within 8 months though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I see that.
Is everyone comfortable with that? I'm seeing nodding heads and a consensus. Karen, did you have any input on this, since it is a topic related to something that I have invited you to be a part of? Is that appropriate to include her in that discussion?
Madam Mayor, do you need to open the floor for me to comment?
I don't believe so, because it's part of this issue or this agenda item. Or should we open the floor?
I would say motion to open the floor since she's not a petitioner or an involved party.
that motion.
Okay. Motion to open the floor by Tom, second by Jared. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The floor is open.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, the mayor and I have talked about this concept briefly, and I really appreciate your additional comments about it, because I think for an ad hoc committee, it's really important that you help us define before we begin the parameters, and certainly the timeline to me, 8 months seems doable. Your requirement or your desire to have a recommendation regarding the design, the plan of how that's going to be accomplished, and some ideas about financing. Of course, it's always the financing that causes us the stumbling block. I'm not suggesting that that has to be a big stumbling block, but it is something that the ad hoc committee will need to think about and gather information. As you have designed the ad hoc committee, I would anticipate, and I appreciate the opportunity to address you, because I would anticipate that we're going to have to bring people in for comment and input beyond these 7 people. So I'm assuming that you're agreeable to that, and you've made some comment about that already, because there's expertise that we'll want to draw on. Certainly, we'll want to talk a little bit with the Parks Committee, because they have talked about some of these same issues. The Northland study is another thing that we would want to look at. I think that it's important, and I would ask the council and others in the community if there are people who are, and I don't know everyone, obviously, that lives in the community, but people who have some experience in design, urban design. There may be somebody in our community that we haven't met yet that would be helpful as a person to give us additional information. Because that is not an area of expertise that I have. I do have experience in running meetings and getting a group together and having them zero in on what the charge is. But I think that whole area of urban design is critical, because we want to do it right. This is a one-time opportunity. So I ask you to put on your thinking hats, and also if there's anyone listening or people that are in our community that have that, it would seem to me that we would want to not add them as members, but certainly use their expertise.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments from the floor, as long as it's open? Seeing none, entertain a motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor.
I'll second it.
Motion by Tom, second by Tracy to close the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So, going back to the motion, is everyone clear on the motion, or should we try to restate it? Sure. Would you like me to try to summarize here? Sure. So there's a motion by Tracy that it was amended, and Tom, were you okay with?
Fine.
Okay.
Jared seconded.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I seconded one, but Jared.
I'm looking at my notes for opening the, no, all right, I wrote Tracy and Tom, so I wrote down the wrong name, apparently. So Jared, are you okay with this amended? Okay. So my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is we have a motion to create an ad hoc committee made up of 7 members, including 3 business owners. And are we restricting that to Bayfield Street or not necessarily? I don't know. Okay, so 3 business owners, which would have to be Washburn residents if we're following that rule.
So there, a business owner that has a stake on Main Street that is not a resident would not be included?
As we currently have that written, it's non-residents are not allowed. And so we either change that for everyone.
Yeah, we should change that. I won't go along with that. If somebody has a stake on Main Street, they pay taxes here. They have chosen to invest in Washburn, and they happen to live a mile out of town.
Sure.
They should have a say.
So I believe the motion was for the rule as is with Washburn residents only. And that was not part of the amendment. Are you asking for that to be amended?
I would like that to be amended, yes.
Are you willing to consider that amendment?
Well, but then it should be uniform. For example, the chamber, I mean, they're vested in Washburn. So we say, well, the chamber representative has to be a Washburn resident.
Can it be different for different members of the committee?
I would say if you're waiving the residency requirement for any of these members, you should waive it for all of the members.
Yep, that's what I'm comfortable with.
So, so are you making that amendment then across the board to include
I think that would
non-residents
be less divisive.
that have a stake in Main Street? Jared?
Should I hear how it is before I?
So the members would have to have a financial interest or how do we want to state that? All the members or just the business owners would have to have a financial stake in?
Taxpayer.
They have to be a taxpayer in Washburn. Is that something we can limit it to?
Yes.
Okay. So
For the business owners.
the business owners need to be a Washburn taxpayer for their business, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay,
For something.
for property, okay. So 3 businesses that have an interest in Main Street beautification that are taxpayers. 1 council member, 1 member of the beautification committee, 1 member of the chamber organization that may or may not be a resident.
My understanding is we're removing the residency requirement for all of these committee members.
And then,
Well, that's not what I just heard. I thought you were I thought business owners are exempt if they are a taxpayer.
so then,
My understanding is removing the residency requirement for all the members, but for a business owner, that business owner has to be a taxpayer of some property in Washington. But correct me if I'm wrong on
so
that.
if you didn't remove the residency requirement, could you open it to businesses that are taxpayers and not a resident?
Potentially, but I would need to do some research on it.
Okay.
I think if we blanket remove the residency requirement, it's an eco protection issue. If we blanket remove the residency requirement, and honestly, our ordinance says as qualified by some state statute or elsewhere, all persons serving on the committees or commissions shall be residents of the city of Washington. I think that if you remove it for some, you need to remove it for all, because of the state statute that incorporates that is our constitution, being the equal protection clause. Okay, you can't just pick and choose where you remove it from. But there could be additional restrictions placed on business owners, of those being ones that own and pay taxes within the city.
Okay. So removing the residency requirement, but adding the restriction to businesses that they need to be taxpayers.
And then can we?
And then a citizen member.
Okay, I was gonna say, 2 resident citizens or a citizen resident? Is
Right now it stands at 1. Jerry?
Maybe we could just, when we pick the citizen member, make sure that
They live in town, in the city.
That's a consideration. Yeah, I don't think
that
they
is a
could,
consideration.
yes.
So
It's an
It would be a
appointment by
preference.
you, right? It's a mayoral appointment.
With confirmation by the council. So Karen and I would probably sit down and try to come up with a list. For consideration.
The citizen.
And then come back here and approve.
Correct.
No. Citizen would not have to be a resident, but I think realistically, people who are interested and going to be wanting to be on this committee, and that can be a consideration.
Oh, by calling it a citizen member, isn't it saying that they're a citizen?
Not a resident of the city.
Citizen of the United States.
So if you want, I can research a little more on that specific question, but initially, my opinion on equal protection issues is if he removes residency requirements for any of the committee members, it needs to be a removal for all of them.
Okay, and so they could be considered, but.
Yes, but you still have
May not
the,
make the recommendation list.
yes.
Okay. I think we're close on that. Does that sound generally like what we're shooting for here?
Yep.
You're gonna say yes on the confirmation of that
Max is
motion?
gonna check it out, and then he's gonna get back to you.
Well,
So if you want to see an answer on whether we can limit, specifically have residents of certain sections or not residents of other sections, I need to do some research into that. Otherwise, I think what we just proposed, removing the residency restriction for everyone with these other conditions, in all likelihood, the interested applicants for this position are gonna be residents of Washburn. If there are multiple competing ones, that can be a factor for determining who you choose to be on this board.
okay,
So my recommendation is to go forward with removing the residency requirement for everyone.
all right, very good. Everyone's okay on that motion?
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion?
Should we repeat it one more time?
No.
I don't know if we've actually heard the motion as amended.
That's what I just finished going through. So the motion is to create an ad hoc committee of 7 members to come up with recommendations for beautification projects along Main Street, with a recommendation within 8 months, unless they request an extension. And that committee would be comprised of 3 business, the residency requirement is being waived, 3 business owners, however, they must be taxpayers, a council member, 1 member of the beautification committee, 1 member of the chamber organization, and 1 citizen member.
That's clear.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll be back next time with a recommendation. Okay. Very good, thank you, everyone. We'll move on to the next item, which is discussion and action on acceptance of FEMA hazard mitigation grant for erosion control planning at Memorial Park and approval of agreement with Fish Creek Restoration LLC for engineering services. This is in tab 5 of your packet. As all of you probably are aware, there's some serious erosion happening at Memorial Park. And the trees are falling in the lake. So thank you for applying for this grant, for the planning. If my memory serves me, I think we've applied for a grant for a project on this section of land before, have we not? And then it was,
I have tried twice to find funding from 2 different sources for this, and we did not receive it. And actually, it was Wisconsin Emergency Management that reached out to me after the fact, saying, yeah, this may be eligible for funding that they have through FEMA.
Great, because I think
And
the
then that's
planning
process.
will help us with then the grant funding for the actual project.
Yeah, once we have a plan in place and know the costs,
Right.
then we know where to see. And it's possible that FEMA may have funding to do this after the fact, so.
Nice. Would anyone care to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to accept this grant as written.
Motion by Tom. Oh, and the approval of the agreement with Fish Creek. Okay. Second to that motion, anyone? Second by Tracy. Are there questions? Jared?
I was wondering where the stated projects costs came from, the 107,000. If we haven't done
That's the cost of the plan itself.
It's just
the design and
Yeah.
engineering.
Okay.
And that dollar amount came from, Bentley from Fish Creek Restoration. So that's where that dollar came from.
itself too.
No,
The plan.
That's just the planning.
it's just the plan.
It's not the
work.
restoration and the,
Yes. Just the planning and then the study and then the engineering.
So we don't have to bid out the planning?
no, the planning would be professional services. It's not required to be bid.
Okay.
So then I understand that they'll give us 3 or 4 options to choose from. On page 8 of 9 on their Fish Creek.
Well, probably the best option that will work for us.
Sure.
Where's that?
Task 6, concept design, page 8 of 9 of their contract. The third paragraph just talks about the alternatives.
Yeah.
But I assume that they're talking about a main concept and then so we'll get a cost once that's.
Yes. So you could do this for this much, or this for this much,
Sure.
or this, and we'll see how it holds on you.
So it could be 3 totally different things.
So you're thinking that FEMA will have some
That's
Money available.
what I hope.
That's the hope, yes.
I
There's
mean,
no,
if they reach out to give us a grant for planning, you'd think they would then have it in mind to, I mean, follow through with the actual.
there's no guarantee,
Right.
but at least we would have a
Hopeful.
plan in place and we'd be ready for when a grant opportunity comes available, no matter what it is. Because in the past, we have applied, but maybe not had a detailed enough, I mean, who knows? I think it seems like our cost wasn't big enough for some of those grants, like.
Well, we've only ever, at the grant side, so we're only ever for study and engineering.
Oh,
So
okay.
they were not for the
Oh.
design, they were not for the actual project.
Oh, okay.
Because we need to know
And this
what we're
cost,
doing to ask for funding to do it.
and this cost is in line with those other proposals, correct? That we've,
That I've submitted?
yeah,
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And if you do notice in the third paragraph, I did put this in here, so there's a possibility that emergency management would increase, it would add a 5% contingency to that 107,000, which would then increase the city's portion, 10% match, up to 12,000. So it'd be a slight increase if they do allow that. If not, then Fish Creek Consulting will just go down to the cost they have and what they can do.
okay.
For 107,000.
So we have a motion by Tom and a second by Tracy. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is discussion and action on ordinance 23-004 regarding camping on private property. This is tab 6 of your packet. And just a clarification that this is only clarifying the definition of what is camping, and the ordinance about how long you can camp is not up for changing. So that would stay the same, which is up to 2 weeks in a 90-day period is what is allowed for camping on your own personal private property. And so that is not being changed at all. It's just the definition of what is camping, because that has been hard to enforce. When someone says, well, this or that is happening in the camper that's plugged in. And so this is just to help enforcement of the existing ordinance.
I can write a little more on that. So we've had some issues where you can't camp on private property for more than 14 days in the 90-day period. When we've raised these issues with people who are camping, they say, oh no, we're not camping there. We're just hanging out until 2 a.m. and then we're going inside to sleep in the house, something like that. And we can't enforce it because we have no way of proving they aren't doing that. This is and it's allowed with ordinances to shift that burden. So there's that presumption that if it's plugged in, if it's erected there, they are camping. And then that person who is camping has to prove otherwise. The way they would prove that is by showing that affirmatively they did sleep somewhere else or stay somewhere else.
So is the issue going to be completely clarified if they're in a trailer or a camper that's plugged in and they say, we only had it plugged in for 4 hours and we didn't stay, you know what I mean? Is there a time limit to the plugging in of the?
They would have to, so then this shifts the burden to if we have a police report or a police narrative saying, or any narrative of a zoning administrator or anyone who has authority to enforce Washington zoning, narrative saying, on this date, we witnessed this recreational vehicle plugged into utilities. That's enough to establish under this ordinance that it was being used for camping. Then if a citation was issued or they were issued an order to move that owner or the occupant of that, yes, the occupant of that would have to provide affirmative evidence to rebut that presumption. So it doesn't, there's not a timeline that you have to see it plugged in. If it's plugged in, it's presumed to be used for camping.
And then the 2 weeks is in effect.
The mere act of plugging in a trailer
So Dave and then John.
for more than 14 days will now be an infraction.
No, it creates a presumption that that's being used for camping. If you can prove, so let's say you had an RV at your house and you provide by a sworn statement that no other people were staying there, you were staying in your house, and you provide a reason why this was being plugged in. That could rebut that presumption. It just makes it easier for the city to enforce this restriction by creating a presumption that a plugged-in RV is being used for camping. It's a rebuttable presumption. It's not an automatic infraction by any means.
So the grandparents that have RVs set up in their yard and they have 10 grandkids that come at different times, and it's a constant flow of grandkids that are going to be staying in that trailer or camper, that would be an infraction.
Yes, and it would be under the current zoning code as well. This just makes it more easy to identify that. Because those grandkids who are staying there, that is considered camping if they're staying in a camper, an RV, or a tent.
For 10 days, 14 is an infraction.
Correct.
For more than
Yes.
14.
More than, yep.
So in 10 days, grandkid A and B, after 10 days leave, 4 days later, grandkids C and D come and stay in the trailer.
They could be there for 4 days.
You know, if they're there for 10 days, it's 2, so
It's 14 out of a 90-day period. That's not being changed, is what the proposal is.
And, well, that's the existing ordinance.
Yes.
John?
I'd like to interject the idea that camping is also not producing a public nuisance in the camp. Like running a generator all night long, for instance.
Those are all just noise ordinance.
But how about accumulating fecal material out around because you're not using the restrooms at the campground? I mean, there's a lot of other issues that do come up with camping. Camping has the idea that, you know, there is a order to it, that it is something that is kept sanitary and clean, it is not a public nuisance and so on. And I think that is kind of a lot of the concern, if I'm correct on it, that really, as far as camping is concerned, you know, I've done a lot of it in my life. In every single case, you never let anything get out of hand, or else you have more vermin and problems than you want. So I can see that if we're just discussing whether we have a plugged-in camper or a tent, that we're missing half the discussion.
So that the other parts are already covered, I think, but I'm gonna turn it over to Max.
Yes, all of those items that you discussed would be violations of other currently existing ordinances. This proposed change is just to make it easier to identify when a camper, it was mainly for camper uses, when a camper is being used for camping purposes. And there's no, it is very, very difficult to enforce the 14-day restriction, because we can't have someone from the city sitting outside that camper all night long watching and making sure that someone sleeps in it. This creates that presumption that someone is sleeping in it. All the other concerns that you just addressed, those are already in the ordinance. It's not saying we're not addressing those. Those are already, the chief of police has said, those are satisfactory as they are written. This was the one that was difficult to prove and difficult to enforce. So this is the one we're proposing to change right now.
So it's just clarifying the definition of camping. That's all this is doing. So there is not a motion on this. If someone would care to make a motion, that would.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we define camping as written here, specified by the ordinance 23-004.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion by Tracy, second by Jared. Are there any other questions? Comments or discussion? Seeing, oh, John?
So I can read the definition of camping pretty well. You know, if it's plugged in more than one night, it's obviously being used.
If it's plugged in, period.
Yeah, that's obvious. But where do permits and city permits come in and say, you know, the idea of having family is a good statement. I agree. You're having family and they're coming in over a period of time. Is that a problem really? I mean, how does it become a problem?
So there's no permit that's needed. You just follow the ordinance, which is that you can have someone camp on your property up to 14 days within a 90-day period. And then you're following the ordinance and it's fine.
Yeah, I can't go along with this. I mean, if grandparents have several kids and they want to.
We're not suggesting changing the ordinance. The ordinance just is what it is. All this is saying is like, it already is 14 days within a 90-day period.
I got you.
So, and we're not suggesting changing that at all.
And I also commented, the campsite, campers being left in good order, there's not a bunch of junk left outside, there's not people coming out, and it's not gonna get noticed, it's not really gonna be a problem.
You can
This is
store
really
your
just,
camper.
what I understand, this is to enforce the ones that are becoming a problem, not just to start enforcing this. It's just because there is issues, and we want to be able to enforce it when there is an issue.
So you laid it out here pretty well. You know, if it becomes a problem, which the question is, you know, is it becoming a problem? Some cases, yes. So is that a different topic then?
It has become a problem in certain circumstances, according to the police department, and this is a proposed change to address those problems. The problems come when There are RVs being pretty clearly used for residency purposes. But we don't have proof that someone is sleeping in them all night to prove under the existing definition of camping that they're being used for camping over 14 days. This is changing that definition to make that presumption, to make it easier for the city to address those problem campers. It's not made to stop grandma from having grandkids coming over to their house. It's made to provide some basis for the city to even have a probable cause to go and tell those people, hey, you need to move, you can't camp here anymore. Regardless of whether a enforcement action is commenced, you need to have some basis there to take that action. And under the current ordinance, without someone sitting outside of that RV all night and watching someone sleep in it, there's no way to prove it.
But this does define that and allows it to be proven that somebody is sleeping in it.
So it's a presumption, it's not proof. So there would be, they would be allowed to refute whether that is true or not, but it would be on them to prove that it's not being used at that point.
So if an RV is plugged in for 14 days, it gives, and it gives the police or the zoning administrator the authority to issue a citation for it being used for camping purposes in violation of the ordinance. I can tell you, in experience as city attorney, if you issue a citation or you go and talk to someone and tell them you're going to issue them a citation, 99% of the time, they fix that problem. We don't have to go to a trial and prove it. What this presumption does is say, okay, here, now we have the basis to issue this citation. If you challenge it, they can provide the evidence that they weren't using it for camping, and they can get that citation dismissed. Or if realistically, if it comes to the end, they provide compelling evidence or proof that it wasn't causing a problem and they weren't using it for camping, I would not further and prosecute a citation for that. This just gives some authority and some ability for the police or the zoning administrator to issue those orders to move an RV or to tell people they can't have that RV plugged in, being used for what appears to be camping purposes on their private property.
Okay,
So,
last question, John.
I think we need to have a further discussion with this, but I don't know that it's a public meeting waste of time at this point. I have confusion in my mind, largely having worked with maximum security juvenile corrections and the mob and a few other things in the federal task force in Alaska, understanding some caveats that had happened under circumstances that there were things that worked around the issues, things that we decided that we weren't going to allow, but then happened. But that's not here, and it's not this time, and it's not us, and it doesn't affect Washburn at this point. So I think we just need to have some time and clarify some definitions.
Okay, so tonight, we're just looking at this change to the existing definition of what constitutes camping. That's all we're doing.
Right.
And there is a motion and a second, and I will call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thanks, everyone. And our police officers, thank you as well, I'm sure. Next item is discussion and action on boost control efforts at West End Park treatment plant and the treatment plant area. So this is tab 7 of your packet. And this is something that council has discussed every year, and we feel that I think what we're doing, and it does need to be addressed every year. And so I feel like what we're doing seems to be fairly effective, although it does seem like there's an awful lot of geese this year, and we had to have the beach closed because of the geese already this summer. So I would look for a motion to approve the goose control efforts being proposed.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
As proposed.
Okay, motion by Jared, second by Tom. Any questions? Tom, and then Tracy.
If we had 3 hunters down there and maybe knocked it down, but I don't think so because there's not enough natural predators for those. And one of our 30-year campers counted over 50 gazelles this year. Because we couldn't get all the eggs unless there's another method. And I talked to my neighbor, Scott knows about this, and I would, before them coming in and doing that, that's the USDA coming in, they net the geese while they're molting, they put them in a large stock trailer, take them off and euthanize them. They just did it in Superior this year.
Yeah, honestly, shooting geese in the fall is kind of sensitive.
They get too
So,
smart.
wait, okay, so that was Tom's suggestion, then Tracy.
I had a question about if you had, I'm not opposed to shooting geese, but is it effective? I mean, with control, and have you done it in the past, and what were the results? That, I just wanted more information.
Sure, I'm gonna let Scott address that. He's been doing this longer than I.
So with that is, it's been a sensitive issue, clearly. And there's no guarantees because they have to be there when the officers are able to do it. So sometimes it happens quickly, other times they're kind of watching for them. So last year, for example, I don't believe that they actually got any. Maybe it was the year before. Just because the timing didn't work out. They don't want to do it when there's a big crowd or Labor Day weekend or something like that. So usually when they are available, they might not be there. So there's a lot of variables with this that of course we have to be careful of. But it is another method to help try to keep it under control. And they only go for the resident geese, and that requires some monitoring as well. So transient geese that are just coming up, they're not what the target. So it's the local geese, the ones that are here all summer.
Yes, sir. Do we need additional hunters to join you to make it?
Well, I just think it's probably a waste of time and energy, quite honestly.
The shooting part of it?
Yeah, I think they should be taken care of in the spring. before-
The angling.
Well, no, I mean, obviously you can't, they're not in season, so you can't shoot in the spring, but if you can get, well, maybe you can get a special.
Well, that's what I was just wondering as you said that. Is there a way to do that or no?
So then, if there's a wildlife biologist that can get them out of here before they have a chance, like, let them get here, let them nest, and then get them out of here, then they won't be around.
When is the molting?
Usually it's in the summer, like, I think it was in July, because they were up in Superior, the USDA was up in Superior, and he took care of that problem.
I mean, I don't profess to be a goose expert, but it just seems like, if you have an invasive problem, you want to take care of it before it gets here. If you know it's coming, I mean, we all know in June, geese are coming. So, to wait till they're here and then take care of it seems kind of sensitive.
Well, that's when they come in when they move, because when they can't fly, out into the lake. When you see them, you don't see them on shore for a couple of weeks, because they're molted and they can't fly, so they have no protection from man or dogs. So they stay in water, and that's when the USDA comes in with nets, kayaks, boats, whatever, and they have a big stop trailer, and they scoop them up, and that's where they put them, and they leave, euthanize them, and then they donate the meat.
Well, I think that maybe we should explore that option.
Is that something we've looked at
Jared?
in the past?
We've looked at what?
Netting?
Oh, is that the type of netting?
That's netting. So that was looked at a long time ago, and I was in contact, as I stated, with the USDA. They'd be willing to come back this winter to do a presentation on that, because again, that will occur in July-ish, when that happens. So there may be an expense with that, but they'd be willing to come and do that presentation. So
we can do this
And that.
do this and that, and we do the egg adding. We've got 19 eggs this spring, but there are nests elsewhere as well. So it's a combination of all these things, and quite honestly, this is it. Our options are limited. These are federally protected birds. You can't do anything else.
Okay, so we have a motion to proceed with the plan that was suggested. Do you want to amend the motion to include inviting the USDA to come and do a presentation on that process that Tom mentioned?
Sure.
Tom, you'd like to go ahead and you're fine with that, since you brought it up.
Well, it's my neighbors.
And are there any other questions?
Are we clear on when, what time? And obviously, are we trying to take advantage of when they're there, or?
So I think that's laid out in the protocol to some extent.
Are you talking about the shooting of the geese?
Yeah,
or
the time of day.
I don't think the time of day is specified. It is, other than not during Labor Day weekend. And there's a sign that's posted that talks about the time frame when goose population control will take place at the park, so people are aware of that at the campground. Scott?
Right now, it's during daylight hours when it could potentially occur.
Any other questions?
I know there's some additional people that would be recommended by my neighbor. That, I mean, he does animal control for the USDA. He done work for the city as it is on Thompson's Creek with the beaver and all that. That are excellent hunters and excellent shots that would be willing to help with the shooting control of the geese.
Let's see. So right now, are we saying that it would only be our officers?
That's not in the protocol, but it's in the memo.
Mm-hmm, I thought the memo, only the police, yeah.
Oh, here, the month of September may extend into October.
That's all.
Okay, so this year, it says the operation would be conducted by members of the Washburn Police Department.
If you want anyone else, I think that should be up to the police chief's discretion. What he does not want is a bunch of people that he is not aware of. And doing this at times that he's not comfortable with.
Okay, so they would, additional members would have to be approved and coordinated by the police department.
They wouldn't have a problem with that.
Is that an okay way to word that?
Is it in the memo or we have to do?
The memo said, so
Everybody-
the memo says this year the operation would be conducted by members of the Washburn Police Department. we could request that they consider adding additional members that they would approve and coordinate.
Yes, I would be comfortable with the request and not the asking them to do that.
Sure.
And they can make that decision themselves.
Right.
Not us.
All right?
If they think it's necessary, they may be able to take care of it themselves.
Right. But it sounds like they have had some challenges there, but not because of lack of people, but timing. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Do we need to count the ayes on that, or? I only heard, nobody opposed, but I only heard a couple people say aye.
With, you don't need a roll call or to count them unless there is some vocal opposition.
Okay.
You can make it as a unanimous voice vote if everyone that you hear is in favor.
Can I have just a clarification? Did we include what you amended about in asking the USDA to come? Winter? I didn't.
Yes, and that was the amendment, yes.
Okay, and that we would consider using them next year during Milton.
Well,
just have them.
Just to have them come, yeah.
So we are including the feds coming in to talk to us about.
Just to give a presentation, yes.
Right, yeah. Because I'm wondering about alternative methods. And that was the three was asked.
Okay. So with that, we have, that motion has passed, and we will move on to the next item, which is discussion and action on acceptance of bid and award for contract for South 7th Avenue West Reconstruction Project, tab 8 of your packet. I don't know if any of you have been on this road, but I certainly have, and it is pretty bad. So, it's pretty straightforward. Does anyone have a motion on this? This was something that was in the plan for this year already, so. We're ready to roll.
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid and award the contract. Yes, stated in the memo.
Okay, motion by Tracy, second by Tom. Any questions? All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion and action on acceptance of bid and award of contract for Holy Lakeview Drive Stormwater Improvement Project. This is tab 9 of your packet. This was in addition to the reconstruction project that we talked about and approved, but the bid came in high. And you should have received an additional memo on the details of that. So, and actually this is one of the projects that I mentioned in the resiliency discussion, because it is, planning ahead for those things that we know are likely going to happen that will affect our infrastructure with flooding, which is becoming more and more of a problem. So would anyone care to make a motion on this project as outlined in the memo, or however that needs to happen?
The proper motion would be to accept the bid, award the contract, and approve the budget amendment.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so motion by Tom to accept the bid, award the contract, and approve the budget amendment. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Jared. Any questions?
No, it just cost us a whole lot more money if it was paid, and that wasn't done, we had to tear it up to do that.
A vision, here you go.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Scott will continue to work his magic with the budget. Okay. Next item, discussion and action on resolution 23-015 for stormwater utility budget amendment number 1. That's part of the motion that just happened, so we find that. And then our next item is discussion and action on ordinance 23-005, establishing a loan program for water and sewer lateral replacements. Tab 10 of your packet. I'm glad to see that this is being considered for all the property owners that are going to need to do this to make it a little bit more affordable to spread out those payments. Does anyone care to make a motion on this item to get our discussion going?
I will make a motion that we establish a loan program for water and sewer.
Second.
So motion by Tracy, second by Dave. Are there questions, comments, or discussion?
I just have a question on how have those loan programs gone before, and people, I mean, it looks like it's like kind of a last resort for people that have to seek out other funding, and if they can't find that funding, then this is the loan program they use, and do they pay it back, or do you have a lot of tax, put it on a tax?
Sure, I'll let Scott answer. Yep.
Well, I don't know because I haven't done this.
Oh, okay.
Well, the one that we have done though, the one that we have done was a COVID loan program that we created for businesses that needed some help getting through COVID. And we ended up, I think, forgiving those.
Those were forgiven because we did receive federal dollars that allowed us to do so. This program, do not anticipate that this is going to be forgiven. This is, most of this I'm expecting would be funded from our old business revolving loan program, which those dollars were essentially given to the city when the state ended that program. So we've had this pot of money, but anticipating that we were going to have some sort of need, but we'd like to keep this and replenish for potential projects in the future. So the way that this is structured is we will provide the loan, and it would be, I'm anticipating, we set that at $4,000 or maybe $5,000, essentially a $1,000 payment per year. If it's not paid, it would be specially assessed on taxes, so that we would be pretty guaranteed to get that back. And I'd like to get a portion of that back before we do the second phase. So that's kind of how I'm coming up with my best guess as to how this would cash flow and what it may require. And those details will work out here as we go forward as part of the budget process.
Scott, this is one that maybe I should have asked you earlier, but do you have any idea from when this was done in 2003 to 2007? This was a similar loan program, the last sewer expansion in the city. How many of those had to resort to special assessment versus how many were repaid voluntarily?
I do not have that information. That I do not know. I do know that on the properties that were specially assessed, which we may have a couple on this, and that's going to be my next thing I have to look at. We have drastically reduced the number of special assessments, but those are for people who are getting brand new connections. And there were some 100 specially assessed properties or more, and we essentially have a handful because that was either if somebody connects to the system, it has to be paid off. They have an option of 7 years or 40 years. It's obviously only the ones who exercise the 40-year option and haven't transitioned or sold the property or haven't connected or anything like that that we still have remaining. Those were just the special assessment ones. As far as the loans, I'm not aware of anything left of that, so.
So it worked well the last time.
It did.
That this
Okay,
happened.
thank you. And this appears to have that mechanism built
Yes.
in so that we will be getting the money back one way or another. So,
Okay, that's.
There are ways the city will be able to recoup this money one way or another, no matter what. Yes.
any other questions on this item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, discussion and action is our next item on Public Works Working Foreman, putting that in quotes, job description, and that's tab 11, and there is a slight update to this, that, the title of it.
Yes, so after we put this together, had some further discussions, and we'd just like to change the title of the position to crew leader.
Okay. So with that in mind, this is tab 11 of your packet. And this is already a wage that's built in to the salary schedule. And is this the one that's highlighted? The Public Works Supervisor, so it would be the Public Works Crew Leader? Okay, would anyone care to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to accept the job description, would be right.
I'll second that.
Motion by Jared, second by Tom, to approve the job description for the Public Works Crew Leader. Any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I did neglect to call to order our Board of Review prior to our meetings.
On Zoom, and I didn't know if I missed that.
So we are going to take a turn back up to the top of our meeting agenda to the Board of Review. And I'm going to go ahead and call us to order. And could we get a roll, we need to do the roll call vote apparently for the Board of Review, just in case that's changed since then.
Mayor McGrath, Tracy Snyder,
Here.
Jen Mazias, Tom Nymus,
Here.
Dave Anderson. Here. John Hopkins.
Here.
Jared Trumbo.
Here.
And I am technically a member as well.
Oh.
Scott Hoover.
He's here. Okay, and since we have no items, I will adjourn us until October 16th at 5 p.m. Thank you. Okay.
That was a formality.
Yes. Next item is closed session. Would anyone like to make a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second that.
And this is for consideration of sale of property. Oh, not that. For discussion on negotiation points for successor agreement with the Washburn Professional Police Association Local 210. So that was a motion by Tracy, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and we are in closed session.
That's technically a
Oh, roll call vote, you're right.
Tracy Snyder.
Here. Or yes?
Tom Nymus.
Yes.
Dave Anderson.
Yes.
John Hopkins.
Here.
Jared Trumbo.
Yes.
All right, we are in closed session. And you're monitoring the online attendance there, Tony?
Yep, and there's nobody on.